Sitting Down to Philosopher here, and if you can't tell, this is going to be probably somewhat of a different video than you're used to. I first have to apologize for the fact that I haven't had a lot of content out recently. I was hoping that in the new year, in 2020, that I'd be able to get out videos a little more regularly, but my job has been kicking my butt for a good long while now and kind of keeping me away from things. And while I'm busy working on a couple of more in-depth videos on my usual type with all the clips and everything like that, I thought I'd give you at least something to chew on while you're waiting. And to that end, I'm going to be opening some comic books. Now, if you've seen a video that I did a while back, it was about how the culture war had sort of infiltrated the superhero genre, particularly in the realm of comic books. And I gave you a few examples of the types of things that the big two, Marvel and DC, have been doing with their comic book characters and with the world that they created that a lot of kids are engrossed in and very, very excited about, especially with the way the movies have been going. The main thrust is that a lot of the same type of culture war things that we see happening on other fronts, be in all the kinds of news stories or in your Twitter feed, are making their way into superhero comic books and therefore into the hands of our kids. And I was encouraging you to look for alternatives to that because the comic book genre is still relevant, especially given the popularity of the characters and the movies that come from those types of things. And the stories in and of themselves, the mythic idea of superheroes, empowered teenagers and whatnot, is still very much a draw to young people. To fill that need, I suggest turning to the independent comics route. And a particular section of the indie route is something called ComicsGate. Now, I won't get into too much of what the history of ComicsGate is, but suffice it to say that there is a particular individual. His name is Ethan Van Sciver. He is a 20-something year veteran of the comic book industry, and he saw the transformation of the big two, particularly Marvel and DC, down this bad culture war road, this SJW or social justice warrior sort of road. And he left it, and he started his own independent comic. And in the process of getting involved in all those things, he discovered a whole bunch of other people who were doing the same sort of thing, producing independent comics with the idea of getting it separated from the culture war and the far left politics that have started to invade comics. He's a really great resource for finding those things. So in watching his videos, and he's kind of become a clearinghouse for those things, I've picked up a few of these comic books. And like I said, I'm a busy guy, so I haven't had time to open these, so I figured, hey, why not do a video of me unboxing this big group of this fat stack of delivered independent comic books. Let's take a look and see what we got. Full disclosure, this is the very first comic that kind of came out of the ComicsGate movement. It's called Jawbreakers. I actually did open this already, so this isn't exactly an unboxing, but I did wanted to get it in with this group because I wanted to do a video on it originally, but it just kind of never happened. But as you can see here, it's standard superhero comic book stuff. It's a team of superhero mercenary types who are battling and dealing with this giant gorilla monster. So it's very much a standard type of comic books. You still mention things, but you don't have to worry about them stepping on or spitting on the values that you hold dear. You can also see that this is a graphic novel. This isn't a standard comic book. Now, one of the things about the movement of independent comics, crowdfunded comics, which is what these are, is that they've gone away from the floppy model, if you will. The standard comic book. Now, these are what would essentially be a collection of multiple of those, a graphic novel, and it's a prestige quality. You can tell it's a solid cover. It's got some really good art, and it's a solid product. And it's definitely going to run you more than your standard comic book, but I still encourage you to take a look. Written by Richard C. Meyer. He's another big deal figure in the ComicsGate movement, and this cover was actually drawn by Ethan Van Sciver. So, there's a lot of connections there in the whole thing. And I'm really looking forward to reading this. This is something that you could give to your 10, 12, 13-year-old kid and be pretty comfortable in letting them read it. And the other thing too is comics are a really good entry into reading for even younger people than your 10-year-old. I got into comics pretty early on. I had to be maybe 8. I don't remember, but it was mid 80s or so, and it was a good way for me to start reading regularly. Because one thing that you'll find, especially with young boys, is reading a book without pictures can a novel length book can feel like, especially for a young kid, can feel like a daunting task. But a comic book feels like something a little more fun. It feels like sort of an illustrated summary of a Saturday morning cartoon or something like that. This is how it worked for me. You get the kid hooked on reading comics, and they get hooked on the idea of a narrative, of fantastical worlds and all those things. And next thing you know, they're going through some really thick science and science fiction and fantasy books that they're getting from the library. I went from checking out my big brother's stash of Avengers comics to reading the entire Dune series by Frank Herbert. I think comics are a good gateway drug, as it were, to reading. Okay, so I got this next one open. Oh, and lo and behold, this is Jawbreaker's God King, I think is the subtitle for this one. This is the follow-up to the one we just looked at. Let's move on to the next one here. One thing I would really like to do one day is actually do my own comic. It's always been a dream of mine to be involved in sort of, science fiction or fantasy writing. I have done a lot of fan fiction writing in the past. I've got hundreds and hundreds of pages of stories, some of which I've gone back to read, and they're actually still pretty decent reads, if I do say so myself. And I've got a lot of aspirations for the future. So we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, I'm very grateful to have these types of things to deal with. I haven't had the opportunity to read comics on a regular basis like I used to. Like I said, I started in the mid 80s and kind of went all the way through into the early 2000s. I think I still collected regularly. I had a subscription, but I wasn't able to continue, as kids and things like that got in the way, and in terms of time and money, and I just wanted to redirect my efforts elsewhere to things that I thought were more important, and which are more important. And but I'm an empty nester now, so I'm thinking of making my way back into the comic book industry. That's when I discovered how bad things have gotten. These ComicsGate books are kind of my catharsis to fill my need for comics, as well as to keep me from having to slog through all of the SJW crap that seems to be out there these days. This is a book by Doug Ernst. He's another YouTuber that I follow. People consider him ComicsGate as well. Actually, in my view, Doug was ComicsGate before ComicsGate was cool. He was kind of tracking the transformation of the industry from something geared towards producing good clean fun for kids into some sort of leftist propaganda outfit. So Doug was in the beginning. He's a journalist. He'd been tracking this stuff for a while, and he finally threw his hat in the ring and produced this book. And I've been hearing really, really good things about this, so I'm excited to see it. It's a book about an order of priests, very specific types of priests who's they're supposed to fight demons, and the qualification is that you had to be a combat veteran. So this hits all the right notes for me. My dad was a Marine veteran. That's my dad. And he was also a minister. So this book is going to be pretty cool, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. And look at that freaking cover, man. All right, on to my next. Let's see here. How am I supposed to end? Okay. All right, and Six Gun Samurai. One of the reasons I was interested in this one is because I actually have a story that, not quite the same as this, obviously, but it does lend itself to some of the same visuals, and I was very interested in seeing what, you know, something that close to my vision would look like in actual print, and actually it sounds like a really neat story. This story is about a guy looking for his dad in the Old West. He's something of a samurai, and obviously it's got a lot of Old West action in it too. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Again, this isn't just a comic in the strictest sense of the word. This is a graphic novel. There's weight to this thing, and I'm excited to see what it has to offer. And then finally, we get to this one here. I actually have an idea who this one is, and we'll see if my suspicions are correct. Yep, and it was true. This is the book from Ethan Van Sciver. This is Cyberfrog Blood Honey. Again, another really neat concept of a book. Really cool visuals. I've been following these guys on YouTube for a while, and they not only, you know, tell you about the story, they not only give you covers and things like that when you support their Indiegogo, you go to their Indiegogo pages, but you also see some of the interior pages, and you see how the product's coming together, and you see what they're doing, and you realize that they're serious. This isn't just, you know, a goof. It's not a vanity press sort of thing. These guys are in it to win it, and I full-heartedly support ComicsGate in their efforts to give us an alternative, so you know, us old fans can have something fun to read, and actually have something to pass on the love of comics to our younger compatriots. You've got men that look like men, women that look like women, and it's just, you know, heroes that behave like heroes, best of all. One of the things that the leftists who have been infiltrating the comics book world have been doing is they've been taking away all of the classic ideas that we have behind heroism, behind what it means to be a hero, what comic books even look like, because, you know, they've been destroying every image, every good thing about comics that was in existence, just to appease their leftist propaganda dreams, I suppose. But these things are doing something different, and I'm really excited about it and behind it. If you're thinking about getting back into the comics, or if you know a kid who might enjoy comics and you're trying to keep them from getting suckered in by leftist propaganda, this is I'm going to give you some resources in the description, and hopefully it'll work out for you. Tell me what you think of this video. What do you think about the independent comics movement and what it's doing to override the leftist propaganda that's going on in the big two comics, Marvel and DC? Discuss in the comments. In the meantime, be sure to like, subscribe, and share for more videos on religion, culture, and politics. That's all for today. This is St. John the Philosopher. Goodbye, God bless, and we'll see you in another video.